All right. Did you get the notification?
Yeah.
Rich says.
Yeah, my computer says it's time to go.
All right, welcome everybody. Today is Thursday, May 28th, 2026. It is 6:30 on the dot, and this is the general meeting of the Board of Intermediate District 287. Before we go on to our agenda, I'm going to ask Dr. Long to read the mission and to begin our board member introductions.
The mission of Intermediate District 287 is to be the premier provider of innovative specialized services to ensure that each member district can meet the unique learning needs of its students. I'm Caroline Long from the Robbinsdale School District.
Rich Sack, Brooklyn Center.
Hi, everybody, Shannon Andreessen representing Hopkins Public Schools.
And Casey, proudly representing St. Peter Park.
Evening, Dan Nestra, Sarasota Public Schools.
Kim Ross representing Eden Prairie Public Schools.
Ryan Roth from West Tonka Public Schools.
I'm Michael Bergman, I represent Edina Public Schools.
Thank you. All right, the first item on our agenda is always to approve our agenda. So is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Moved by Dan, second by Shannon. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye and the agenda is approved. I don't believe we have anyone here for audience opportunity to speak. Okay, thank you, Lonnie. We have our consent agenda containing routine business items. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Moved by Kim. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Brian. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? The chair votes aye and the consent agenda is approved. It is off week for Share the Success and Recognition. So we're going to go to our superintendent's report and we've got a couple of items that Superintendent Dowd is going to present.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So tonight we are going to get an update on the strategic plan. We know the school year isn't done and there's still student data coming in. But we use this presentation as evidence also in alignment to the superintendent goals, which is the implementation and completion of the 25-26 school year strategic plan goals, as well as the development of the 26-27 goals. So I'm going to ask Camille, who will be the facilitator, and start to present our preliminary results. Just as a reminder, you will get the full report in August. We only have one board meeting in August. It's towards the end, and that's when you get the final report with all of the student data.
All right, well, good evening, Superintendent Dowd and board members. Tonight we present an update on this year's strategic plan goals, and Dr. John Voss will present on achieving academic goals, achieving academic success goals. And then I'll present on the cultivating equity and inclusion goals on behalf of Kiara Zachary, who's at a conference this week. And Dr. Laura McLuhan will present on the progress of our promoting social emotional learning goals. So we're going to start with John. And then we'll go to me and then Laura.
Thank you, Camille, board members. The achieving academic success goal for students was that 80% of all students would meet or exceed one identified academic goal as measured by weekly formative assessments, including progress monitoring. It's been a very busy year in this regard. As of May 15th, for the students who are in our site-based programs, the percentages there include the students who are enrolled and have a goal recorded, those who are on track, and those who have already met their goal. As we look at the numbers and how they're playing out over the next couple of months, we are realistically recognizing that we may not meet the goal of 80%. There's been an increase in the percentage of students who are on track as opposed to last year. But there are a number of challenges and hurdles involved with the variability in implementing instructional practice, interventions, and the consistency of progress monitoring, and also with alignment of IEP goals and other academic or non-academic goals that students have, so that there's not always consistent or focused attention that can be divided between IEP needs, life skills needs, and other challenges that students are addressing. And so that's part of why we would not necessarily meet that particular target of 80%, even though we're doing everything we can to push towards that over the last couple of weeks and the last month of school. Questions now, or are we moving on?
I just have one question. It might be not always the best math person. The 21.3% that have met the goal, I'm assuming they're not included in the 69.2%, or are they?
They're not.
Okay.
Any other
Yes.
questions on that? All right, we'll move on to the cultivating equity and inclusion goal, which was this year, each educational center will have a student leadership group that is representative of their student body, the district's programs, care and treatment, itinerant, Northern Star Online will provide opportunities for student voice on curriculum activities or events. And so the progress of this goal is on track. Each educational center has a student leadership group responsible for organizing and planning at least one school-wide event. Some examples of that, you saw them probably in your board weekly throughout the year, is the Science Palooza at NEC, the Black History Month door decorating competition at WEC, Festival of Nations, ABEC, and the open house at CTC. So again, all the students really had a voice in coming up with how those events came together and what should be included as far as activities. NSO staff, they have integrated student feedback from course evaluations into their PLCs. So any questions on that goal? Great, I'm gonna call Laura up.
Good evening. I am excited to share a little bit of a progress update on our promoting social and emotional learning goal. We worked really hard, as you recall, to align the language of this goal with our achieving academic success goal. We wanted to ensure that we were providing equal emphasis for our students as we're supporting them with accessing their academics and then also growing in those social emotional learning skills so that they can find success academically and externally, as we're really thinking about those long-term transition job ready skills for our students. So similarly, we pulled the same data as the achieving academic success goal. So as of May 15th, just under 93% of our students enrolled have a goal recorded. As John has talked before, we have worked really hard to have a tight timeline as we're enrolling new students. As you know, with our setting for referrals and with our ALCs, we receive students all the time. And so making sure that we're really quickly reviewing data and getting students goals really solidified so that we can be providing that support and then moving forward with that progress monitoring. 73% of students are on track with their goal. Currently, we have 38% of students that have already met their identified social and emotional learning goal. Similarly to that question that was raised earlier, the 73% of students is the students who have not yet met their goal are on track to meet it. We do want to provide the caveat, we're also not sure if we're going to meet that 80% for this goal. We've talked, I think at the mid-year report in January, a little bit about some of the barriers that we've encountered this school year. We because social emotional learning just is a little bit squishier, for lack of a better term, right? Students are just really varied with their skills developmentally across all of our programs. And so we have some students that are really struggling in the area of self-awareness, some more in the area of self-regulation, some more with those relationship skills. And so as we went through this year, we wanted to give that autonomy for our case managers to identify either a goal from a goal bank that we provided or to keep this identified SEL goal in line with an IEP goal or objective that they already have in place. I think that autonomy was really lovely, but it did make it a little bit tricky to ensure that our interventions were really aligned as we were really focusing on that rollout of the Tier 1 curriculum across all of our programs. So that variability in goals and then the measurement of potentially having 6 to 8 different goals and things that you're working on within one classroom just had an impact. And so in partnership with FOG, a lot of the feedback that we received this year was around really trying to align the goals in the future to the curriculum that we're providing so that we have that really beautiful through line, I guess, so to speak, so that what we're delivering in terms of that Tier 1 instruction is in line with classroom-wide goals so that we can use that progress monitoring and formative assessments in the classroom to really be monitoring progress
through that tier one, and then that's going to better align with our goal for next year, which is really around developing that multi-tiered system of support so that we have some really solid practices around what are those thresholds on a number of data indicators that would initiate the need for a student to move into a more intensive intervention so that we can really provide that aligned support based on their needs. Any questions related to the social emotional learning goal?
So just for clarification on the numbers, did you say that the students who met their goal is not included in the ones that are on track?
Yes, correct.
Because
So
that's a weird number. So it's 111%.
So the 38% of students have already met their goal, and then the remaining students who have not yet met their goal, 73% of those students are on track. Does that make sense? I apologize if I misspoke earlier. Thank you for clarifying.
All right, so now we'll move on to our staff goals, and we're going to start with John.
Okay, for the staff goal for achieving academic success, our goal is that through monthly collaborative meetings, all staff teams would show evidence of using disaggregated student and school data and implementing targeted intervention plans. We're not entirely on track with the full extent of that. We do have 100% of our staff that are meeting in teams at least monthly. Where we're still working toward is consistency on how we use our data and how we proceed from there with intervention plans. Again, because there are a lot of competing needs for students and what the staff have to grapple with when they meet, there's competition for attention to how they spend their time during their meetings for planning how to support students for what's most needed at the time. And so the use and the attention to the academic data, again, versus some of the other data that's available can vary. And then the targeted intervention plans that come out of that are often combined with things to address IEP goal needs and some of the attendance factors that we've been looking at, and behavior and the other life skills goals that we have for our students. So when it comes to how we're going to address this in the future, as we look at our universal practices, that's a big part of our plan for next year, is to establish that across the board and to build our teaming around that with a renewed emphasis on a consistent MTSS structure across all of our programs and sites, with a district tier one expectation level that's provided by a district team, and then teams at the site levels to address tier two and tier three interventions.
I have a question. From the staff's perspective, is it that I totally appreciate, where their time is spent and the competition between where they want to spend their time and so on and so forth. Do you have any sense about the staff's actual acceptance of this as a strategy, as part of their core work of what we're trying to get to strategically? Is there buy-in or is there some resistance to it? I mean, I'm not
There's-
everybody, but can you talk about that a little bit?
There's buy-in. There's certainly more buy-in as time has gone by, and we've talked about the importance of core academic instruction and universal practices and how to connect what's happening across all areas. We've done a lot of work on unit unpacking when it comes to how curriculum is designed and presented to extend the academic standards to provide access to students so that their access points may differ, but the standards and the goals are addressed the same way.
So from a cultural standpoint, there's not a sense of resistance to this concept. It's just really figuring out how to continue to incorporate it into what's happening through the individual and the team structure.
Yeah, it's more building understanding through training and coaching and examples and models and practice and developing routines and doing a I do, we do, you do approach to both how it's working at the instructional level, especially with some of our newest teachers or tier one, tier two licensed teachers. that building that experience is a big part of what's involved.
And so when we talk about for then next year, it would, by just the course of human nature, one would expect that to continue to improve in the direction we want to, based off of what you just said.
Yeah, and like I said, we've seen an increase in how that has played out and the development of those routines, especially as the second half of the year has gone on, where once teams were meeting and there was a common schedule and there were some common expectations and the agendas were solidified and the data sources were a little clearer, the data was entered a little more regularly, all of those things help build towards it. And there's still a fair amount to go yet, and that's where I think the consistent MTSS structure will support that.
Okay, thank you.
I just had a question. Thought I heard you say at the beginning that there's a competition between IEP goals and academic goals.
I think it's more that for the time that is spent on where the attention goes, they are supportive of each other, and the academic goals certainly are the foundational part of what we provide for instruction. And then understanding how the IEP goals support that is where we're working harder on getting that aligned so that they are mutually reinforcing. And so it's a matter of where the time and attention is put. That's what I was trying to get at, is that if you have meeting times that are short and condensed and happening once a month, that the number of things to address can be extensive, and where to put attention and focus will often be on the things that are most critical at the moment.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification. So I am wondering, my question is there a reason that IEP goals are separate from academic goals? That
No,
they're not, like, that academic goals are not incorporated into an IEP?
It varies, right, in terms of, where that team has landed in terms of identifying. And many in IEPs, we'll see the academic goals included as a goal related to the IEP. And in other areas, there's that team has made an individual decision around a student, and there's a lot more focus on some of the other areas that we address as part of a particular students.
Yeah, I've never seen an IEP that didn't have academic goals in it. So just wondering what's.
they have academic goals. I think where we're laying a new pathway is to make sure that all academic areas are considered within what's foundationally presented for students and what's taught in the classroom. And so there are points at which there are things that we're teaching academically that either aren't addressed directly in the IEP or are more indirectly addressed through access. I think that's where we talk about extending standards to provide access. And again, the capacity of how fast we get there and where the attention goes in any particular meeting can vary depending on any particular student.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know, from my lens, it's what I'm hearing from them when they're talking about it is there's a variety of different programs within our district. You know, some of them are ALCs, and depending on what that kid needs, they might not come in with academic needs on their IEP. So then those needs will have to be addressed in another way if it wasn't found to be a goal that is something that the IEP team felt they needed. And those kids might be focusing more on social emotional stuff or study skills stuff or transition things, and not those goals. Also, I guess too, what I'm hearing too is like, there's a variety of, like the SEL piece, a variety of social emotional goals that come in. And how do you work with these kids who come in and might be in fourth grade with, you know, everybody having their own unique different needs, and not necessarily all those needs on that IEP matching up together. And yeah, and then I'm also, I guess what I'm also kind of hearing too, like from a teacher perspective, it's like, how do I sit and look at all these, the disaggregated data on these students and then also contend with the unique needs of each student? Because the IEPs are supposed to be individual and they're coming in from all these different districts. So they're not all aligned and they shouldn't be. So it's kind of like, how do you deal with grapes, strawberries, cherries, watermelons all together in one classroom? They all have different requirements to grow and what they need.
Great.
I don't know if that helps at all, but
I think one thing that we need to work on is understanding the alignment between a standard, the skills behind that standard, and then how do we write that in the IEP? So IEPs come to us, we're talking about academic goals, and we're in year 2. I think that, IEP is every year. Now you can adjust it more than that, but annually you need to. And I think our staff is getting more, okay, I know I'm gonna have this academic goal. This is a need of a student, might be a focus area. And getting better at making that alignment and how the two are connected. But I think we need to continue to support our teaching staff around that and understanding that alignment, that here's our academic goal, what are the skills needed, how would that be written in the IEP that we could progress monitor. And I would say it's not perfect. I think, Caroline, all the things that you shared is you all, we all should be writing IEPs the same, but that's not really true across district from district. So as students come into us, we have the option to accept that IEP or rewrite that IEP, and sometimes we might have to address some of those uniqueness. There's a system component to that's also not yet developed and supported. Thank you.
well, too, if I can add one more piece to it, the amount of time to write an IEP it takes a lot of time. And depending on when you have influx of students, that could also, when we talk about taking a teacher's attention away, from wanting to, they might be like, I got a time crunch, I gotta get this paperwork done. We need these different goals.
And that's always the balance of, you're talking about something
Yeah.
like this. It's not wanting to do work for work's sake,
No.
Yeah,
which is what we oftentimes get from higher levels of requirement from government and so on and so forth, whatever it is. What we want these to be are actually what's the best intended purpose for the student's needs and the guide for the team to be able to do that, while at the same time having enough standardization to where anyone can pick it up and understand what's going on with it, rather than it being its own specific language that no one else understands. That's the balancing act, right? We don't want to make it just work for work's sake, but we want to make sure it's meaningful from a management and understanding systematically, but then not taking away what you're talking about is that individual component that's in there. That's a challenging balance to try to, that's the goal. How do you get there? And that's not going to happen like this, but then it's also then when we're then not seeing enough progress, if that ends up being the case, then what other things are we going to do to bridge that? That's kind of what I'm hearing in year 2, is that we're seeing progress. We're not quite where we want to be. We still have some work to do. How do we kind of keep moving in that way, but not to the point where we're going to then violate what you just said, which is, this is the understanding of what this student needs and so on. So how we do that, it's not arbitrary or artificial. That's what I'm, as the lay person talking about this, that's how I'm systematically looking at it. Is that kind of where you're at? Yeah,
Yeah, I am acknowledging the individualized component of the IEP, and yet it doesn't matter if the student's in District 287 or in your district. The goal is to ensure that the student has access to grade level curriculum and standards, and then as the IEP process, what are the skills needed to support access?
Yeah.
And the more work we have around student data, it'll get better. The more our teachers, our setting looks different than your setting. And so I think it's not going to be exactly the same, but the whole goal is that the student goes back to your district. Because social emotionally, they have developed skills and academically they have developed skills. And so what does that system look like here? That is alike and different than yours.
I just wanted to add, I know, like Marcy, you have said many times, like, we're trying to work ourselves out of a job here. You know, like, we want our students to return back to your district. And so we're doing all we can to make that happen. So now we're going to move on to the Cultivating Equity and Inclusion staff goal for this year, which was that all full-time staff will engage in at least 8 activities to reflect on their social identities and how that influences their work with students and colleagues. So this goal, the progress is not on track. So as of May 20, 56% of staff have attended 8 events. Staff who missed sessions earlier in the school year are making up sessions. Supervisors are facilitating makeup sessions based on the needs of their staff until June. I do want to share that the reason it's 56%, like these are the action steps that we're taking to make sure that we help our staff get to that 100% of staff have attended 8. But there's been some technical challenges for us as far as our staff actually signing in when they're going to a session. They may not. We're also not sure if some staff feel they are a little bit resistant, thinking that, oh, I'm just doing this for the strategic plan. So kind of depending on who you ask, there's various reasons why this goal is not on track, but we're doing everything we can, of course, to get all of our staff to attend these events and to do that reflection. Any questions?
So I'm assuming based on the attendance that these aren't opt-in.
No, no, yeah. The opportunities are presented, whether a department decides to hold on one day an event. If an employee is sick or they couldn't attend, then they miss that opportunity.
Times that are given around professional development days, staff meetings, equity team meetings, and there's different opportunities either at the building district level where they are scheduled and organized. So if students do not attend, there's a sign-in sheet. So wrapping around going, did you attend? And then 2 would be, if they were sick, what's a makeup? Because those are live sessions. And so then the equity team developed some asynchronous opportunities for makeups because that wasn't available when we first launched it. So accountability is a big part of this one. And then I'm still hopeful that we'll get very close to it by June because there's been a lot of effort on that last 2 months on accountability.
I would just say, like, if you're saying that there are people who necessarily to check a box on a strategic plan, that's a cultural issue that I would be concerned with. And knowing that anything like this is going to happen, that's not surprised that that happens. But how you address that is the culture that we want to have within 287 and in every building. This is not a checkbox. There isn't anything that we do that's just a checkbox. There's a reason. If you don't understand that reason, then we have to work on how to get your understanding there. If you don't agree with that reason, then culture, we have to work on it, figure that out.
Yeah, and that's our values. I mean, this is in our values and it's values alignment. And so we continue to tie back, especially our strategic plan, all of the goals back to our values. So our staff are aligned. Any other questions on that one? All right, then I'm Laura.
All right, our promoting social and emotional learning staff goal this year was really focused on retention rates for staff within their first year of employment with us. Is the comments were just made about tying all of our work to the strategic plan. We know that having consistent staff in buildings that students are building relationship with and seeing year after year is so impactful to their growth and development. So our goal was really around increasing that retention rate for staff within the first year by 10% from the previous year. This goal is on track. I'm excited to report. As of May 21st, 81.44% of new hires in the 25-26 school year have been retained. This is in comparison to just over 72% of staff in the 24-25 school year within that first year of employment. One thing to note is that these rates include voluntary resignations and some specific involuntary termination types, but they exclude temporary or contracted staff members, medical leaves, and a few other specific separation types. We will be doing a final check at the end of the school year, and that will be included in the final report that will come out. We also, when we consider just looking at those voluntary resignations, the retention rate as of May 21st is actually 91.2%. So we're really excited to celebrate the fact that we're retaining our staff, that staff are wanting to be here, and we've done a lot to invest in them. Part of that was the consistent onboarding and mentorship piece. The HR department has worked really hard to do state interviews. So as you can see, there was a state interview survey that went out to staff within their first 3 years of employment within the district. We received over 250 responses. There were also 15 in-person state interviews that were conducted. And the Human Resources Department is collaborating with a program analyst to compile all of this data and make an employee experience report available to our district and site-based leaders so that they're really able to incorporate that into decision-making as they move forward so that we can really amplify those experiences that staff have had that have really led to them choosing to stay with us. Additionally, we've done a lot with our role-based onboarding and mentorship across the district. We have incorporated the role-based onboarding checklists into our hiring process. So in addition to that new employee orientation that we're providing, the 3 days whenever a new staff person starts with us, we then have a warm handoff to that site where staff are then moving through a role-specific checklist where there's additional things that they're learning, not only from their supervisor, but from their assigned mentor. Within the building so that we can continue to provide that support to ensure that staff have everything that they need to really be successful in serving our students. So we are really excited about this goal. I think we're close to the point of it really being standard operational practice. And so, as you know, our staff SEL goal is shifting a little bit next year because the work of this mentorship and onboarding really has become just what we do at 287. Any questions related to this one? Thank you.
Thank you. So now we'll move on to our family caregiver goals, and we're going to start with John.
So for achieving academic success and promoting social and emotional learning and to increase family caregiver knowledge of their students' progress, staff have been providing caregivers with an opportunity to review and discuss their formative assessment data on their academic and social emotional learning goals at conferences. That is on track. Conferences were held at every site at least twice this year. All student caregivers were contacted about that opportunity several times, and we had 15.8% who attended in person, and all students who did not attend were provided opportunities for phone and virtual conferences. In addition, conferences were combined with family nights, so it was a larger event and affair. In most cases, then also the opportunity for updates on student progress and data are available in other meetings, communications, and events. And so a lot of follow-up takes place on what's happening there and how to view some of those things within our student and parent platforms.
I just want a quick question. Oh, sorry. I'm just curious as to who is ultimately responsible for contacting the caregivers about this opportunity?
It starts with teachers and case managers, also counselors will play a role, social workers will,
And it's all
Reach
like,
out if they
and
need
all kind of
to.
share,
administrators.
there's all sort of a shared space for people to know who's contacted and done what, whatever it is.
Yeah, we've tracked a lot of different ways for how that's happening and who's doing it and working that into our systems.
Cause that's always a really big challenging thing. And you just think about marketing, right? It's the same kind of thing from a marketing standpoint. This is just as important of customer service. And that's, so I was just curious when I read that offline, I was like, oh, how do we actually do that? So thank you.
I was just wondering with the 15.8% attended in person, is this an increase? Or do we not have any data because this is the first time we've done conferences? Just wondering if there's.
It's the first time we've done them across the board, district-wide, and actually taken the data on in-person attendance. There've been a variety of ways that we've done family nights and connected with parents within that or around it or through other meetings. And I think we talked previously about we're trying to emphasize the importance of the academic progress end of this as opposed to an IEP meeting. And so all of those things are newer in terms of the emphasis on the formative assessment data on academic and social emotional learning goals being the focus of it.
And then just wondering, do we have any data on, did people take us up on the virtual or phone offers or?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I would think that would be more popular. I prefer it.
Yeah. There's still some specific data to sort through on that. And I think the anecdotal experience has been that nearly all either did it or declined the opportunity expressly. So if it didn't happen, it wasn't because there wasn't an extensive effort to provide several opportunities to do it.
There was some type of engagement.
Yes, yeah.
Right.
And
Thank you.
in addition to a lot of the engagement that happens regularly on daily updates or on how students are doing or other IEP goal updates and the things that happen regularly.
This will be our baseline data, but we will also make this for virtual. And so that'll be something that we here in the sense of marketing and how we have a family. Each site as attending the newsletter that was marketed significantly. And then we also provided protocols for teachers to use to say like free content rule to try to engage families for options. And we really are intentionally talking about conferences and then IEPs. Really addressing all the academic goals that are part of the grade level standard as well as the IEP skills.
I think I said this before, but I just want to express my gratitude as a parent of a special needs child. I showed up for parent teacher conferences one time and was told that, oh, these aren't for you. And for 287, because they figured I have my IEP meetings, I check in regularly, like all that sort of stuff. And that was crushing. And I think that having 287 do this sends a really strong message to our families. And I'm so grateful that this is happening. So just a personal anecdote.
I appreciate that feedback. I think our staff would like knowing that too.
It's really important.
Thank you so much. So the cultivating equity and inclusion goal for this year was that each educational center and district program care and treatment itinerant Northern Star Online will establish a family caregiver group to provide feedback to administration on district curriculum and school activities. And so the progress for this goal is on track. All 287 sites and programs have family caregiver groups. The groups have focused on community building and identifying community partners, and family and community engagement staff have facilitated connections to community resources based on family caregiver group feedback and interest. Just anecdotally and also qualitative data shows that we've had way more parents coming to our events, and those are parents who have been giving us feedback and joining us as we're developing some of these school activities, like some of the ones that you heard that the students also gave feedback. The parents did as well. And so we're really seeing that great partnership. And that's something new in my 4 years of being here of seeing. Usually it would just be the students and teachers, but now we're seeing families come in too and enjoy these events. So it's been really great for our engagement. Any questions on that one? Great. Any questions in general about this year's progress? Okay. So now we're going to share the 2026-2027 strategic plan goals. But before I do that, we want to thank all of our focus area work group members. You see some of them here today, just a few of them. And then these are all of them. You've seen this picture before. We are going to ask that each of them come up and just share what's their name and what site they're from. And then, yeah, don't be too shy. Come on up. And so we'll start actually with them.
Without,
Because these two, but you can come up here. Come up, Etta. Yep.
I'll support them.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
I'm Veronica Jacobson. I'm at Ann Bremer. So
I'm Courtney Tomlinson. I'm also at Ann Bremer.
I'm Dr. Sherry Anderson and I'm at South Education Center.
Etabliso Bono from North Education Center.
Yeah, and just talk about, your reason for wanting to be part of the group. Yeah, go ahead, Leslie.
Right. Well, I did take notes, but I'm really honored to be here and thank you for listening to what we have to say. It was really great to be part of the group. This is my second year in the group. And I think I wanted to just see the broader context of our district and understand where we were going. And I understood the through line, what Laura had talked about, like, oh, now I understand why I'm taking this data, why I'm writing these goals, why I am here doing what I'm doing. My focus was achieving academic success. And the first year, we just kind of scrapped and like, how are we going to do this? Where are we going to go? How do we put this together? And then this year was more focusing on the 3 areas and then having the 3 goals of staff, caregiver, and then student. And personally, it really helped me understand what I was doing in the classroom. And I wanted to address some of the things you all said, because I was like over there shaking my head like, yeah, that's true, whatever the questions you were asking. So Michael, you said something about the intervention plans and how to support. So when we met as a MTSSCT, our collaborative team, that smaller group, we started to understand how to support each other, how to create interventions for each other. Like it was really grassroots kind of wonderful feeling for me. And then the academic goals, I can't remember why I said that, but I wanted to tell you that I have my own child with disability, and he had IEP from 6th grade on. He started in Edina, 6th grade on, and never had one academic goal on his IEP. So not one. It was all about behavior, communication, advocating for him, for himself. Okay, I'm done. Forever.
Again, I'm Etta, an all political observer. I will ask what initially interested me to join this group. My passion is women and children. In many societies, women and children are often the least fortunate. They receive the least support and opportunities. If I can help a child or a student from point A to point B, then life is worth living. When I read the Superintendent Introduction for the 2024-2029 strategic plan, which focuses on student achieving academic success and cultivating equality and inclusion. I knew I wanted to collaborate with experts to help brainstorm actionable strategy that will positively impact our students' future. I always tell my own children and children that I mentor that whatever you learn is yours. No one can take it from you. Even if they will take your life from you, what you have learned, they can never take it from you. So just to just go a little bit on that saying that I have from my country when I came here over the past 30 years. When the war happened in my country, what we learned, we were not able to take a lot of stuff with us, but we took our education with us, that we can live in any country. When I came here, I was well educated. And one where I lost a family in it. And if I had lost my life, no one was going to take my education. So that's the reason why the students for the past 14 years, I've been coming back and back, is that for me to be able to help a little child from point A to point B. Because tomorrow, their future depends on we are dressing away. They are the young generation, they are our future. So what can we do for them? And before I finish, I was just looking at a note, I made my note when you asked the question, that academic goals should be included in the IEP. I know I've been working with the students. As a matter of fact, I work as EA or ESP, what you would call it. But we deal with more behavior than the academics. And I guess that's the reason why, but their academic is also important. So when I got the superintendent there, I only, because for me, education is it. Education is it. It might be tarnished along the line, but it will still stand at number one. I come from the home of educators. So that was the order of the day in our homes. And I also noted that we should, if we are talking about our children, about the 80%, we should also, as we focus on the behavior, we should not lose focus on looking at the academic part too. You know, most of my students, and when I tell them, you have to learn, you got to do this. This is the important thing you have to do. They won't like it, but I tell you, you have to be persistent. Continue to tell them, continue to teach them. Oh, yeah, we are parents, your children, you're teaching them, you're telling them what to do, like they not hear you. Let it go on their own, you go visit. You will see the difference. And then when we talk about equality, the conversation about fairness alone is not enough. We must critically examine the system we are building. I want to contribute in a meaningful way that will help make our already district that is greater. That's what interests me to join this group. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to all the FOG members. I mean, we've grown from a small group to large, and it's teachers, it's paraprofessionals, related service, it's administrative assistants, it's parents. And it's really critical that they have voice in these goals and then go, how do we make them come alive? And so what I appreciate is the time and energy that you put into this, the day that you look at it, and your continued advocacy for academic learning for our students. Because you are absolutely right, Sharon. So just want to thank you for your time and energy. I know it's a commitment. It's a lot of work, and so thank you for that.
Yeah. Well, you all have the 2026, 2027 goals in front of you. In April, we recommended these goals and there were no changes at that time since that presentation or a lot of changes or feedback from this group. So we are here tonight to ask for the board's approval of these goals. The student goals, which are up here now, essentially establish a roadmap to ensure every student can receive support to achieve academic success, ensure their cultural representation and coursework, and that students have SEL tools to succeed next school year and beyond. And for the staff goals, they really focus on making sure educators have the tools and support needed to better serve our students by providing our staff the professional development, the cultural frameworks, and emotional strategies needed to create a more inclusive and supportive environment for every student. And then our family caregiver goals are designed to really bridge that gap between home and school by having active partnership and clear communication to empower our families and caregivers with the data that they need to support their children. So those are the goals that we have for next year. Any questions on the goals?
Did you recognize a student?
Yeah.
That was like the most beautiful thing. I saw the slide and she was like, oh, so I.
Which one was it? This one?
No, on the
No.
last, on the last slide.
Oh, from last year's graduation.
That's gonna be a great segue when we talk about graduation in just a few minutes. So remember the board, remember that moment. Super, thank you.
Well, if there are-
Any questions?
Yeah.
Board members, I saw this last month.
If there are no
And we really do, I mean, recognize and appreciate and see we know how much work this is. We've been seeing these, like these goals and the updates just like get bigger and better every year. So we really appreciate, and we really appreciate you being here and being in person and like being able to hear why you're passionate about it. It really comes through and makes it very real for us. So thank you.
Great. Yeah. And so we are here tonight to ask for approval, your approval on these goals. That's the action on the table.
All right.
And I'm just wondering, under the staff goals.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, they're
okay.
combined. I was wondering where equity inclusion went and then
Yes.
I just read the whole.
Oh. But just to name that, what's been very interesting with our focus area work groups and bringing more diverse perspectives and experiences to the tables, we're starting to see that through line, going back to Laura again, in a lot of the theme areas. And they're really not that much different. Like they're all kind of together. Even in the discussion we had tonight, we talked about social emotional learning and achieving academic success in IEPs. Like there are a lot of connections here. And so we've been so appreciative of the FOG group helping us see that alignment because they're there with the students. They're working hand in hand with them and they're helping us bring this all together. So. Yes.
All right, well, with that, I will entertain a motion to approve the 2026-27 goals as presented. So moved by Shannon and second by Michael. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye and the goals are approved.
Great.
Thank you, thank you, thank
Thank
you.
you. Yeah.
And now we have one more item under this superintendent's report on your goals.
Absolutely. Now, please know, FOG members, you're always welcome to leave if you'd like, or you could stay and listen to the whole board meeting. Leave it to you.
It's fascinating.
It is. So, for the superintendent's goals, you saw that the strategic plan with those goals that we are on track to meet, and there's some I'm still hopeful that we'll be on track by the end of the year. The student goals at 80%. We'll see an increase, but they're not on track now for that 80%. In completing walkthrough and observations, I was able to observe some staff progress monitoring. We did have some technical difficulties in implementing that progress monitoring on the system that caused either data not getting in the system and or just people maybe didn't understand, and the rollout was rough. So the curriculum instruction team actively targeted staff that needed support, and also our coaching team, and just really looked at what teachers were struggling with progress monitoring and tried to do targeted intervention. Our staff collect data on students, but this is a very systematic approach to data collection. And I think we still have areas of growth. I think we could explain the why a little bit more. Those that are part of the FOG are starting to see that connection, but I think our rollout could have been more on hitting the why and the beliefs, and then more intention around how do you put that data in the system. So that's on us as leaders to continue to work and be better. And then Camille and I, as part of the strategic plan, met on a weekly basis and prepared documents for the directors' meetings, for the FOG meetings, as well as IOL, really looking at where are we, what do we need to do. I think one thing that we implemented this year in our strategic implementation planning meeting that was very meaningful and brought more attention to that accountability piece of implementation is that during the FOG meetings, we had structured meetings where we talked about what's going on, what's working, what's not. And we also had share outs where principals shared their data and owning their data and talking about it, and also sometimes asking for help in certain areas. Or we got to the end of the year where principals were asking each other, well, what are you doing that's successful? Which is what you want. You want to build that culture of and community of leaning on each other, and district staff supporting the implementation. So I think those are really great things that we started and that will continue for as we monitor the implementation. Meeting with leaders when things aren't going well, meeting with leaders when things are going great, talking about implementation, and then we will always give updates to the board as well as to our instructional leaders. So we have more points of accountability through it. I wish the results were working a little bit more on track, and I'm hoping we can still get there. In January, we had to have some hard conversations. The data wasn't looking great. And that is part of how we all have collective accountability in ensuring these goals come to life for our students. It's not just the superintendent, it's all of the leaders, and that's part of my job as a superintendent, to continue to work in that way. That was it.
Any questions for superintendent on that? Yes, Janet.
Sorry, I don't know why I'm so full of questions tonight, but I am wondering if part of what might be, I guess I'm just wondering what happens to the goals that are like not on track. Like, I think the one that I'm specifically a little concerned about is the staff equity goal.
Yeah.
And is that something that through your goals you will carry forward? Like I'm thinking about back to an IEP,
Yeah.
you know, like
Yep.
you carry it forward
Mhm.
until you reach your.
Yeah, so even in year one goals, these are year two goals. But we have a retreat in June that we're preparing for, and what Camille and I developed is a one pager. What is just like the onboarding and mentoring was one of the goals that we had, and now it's just part of our business. So we say, you know, like, so we're keeping it alive, it's still be something we'll measure. Who are the implementers and who's the accountability auditor, like, I mean, audit, I don't mean to be like penalty wise, but who's gonna look at it to say, are we still implementing with fidelity as we are now feeling as part of our business? So we have all of the goals listed as well as checkpoints for annual updates of goals that we've met, or that, you know, we're not, but they're still alive. We're continuing to meet. The equity one, the issue that is, I would say we still have to uncover why the data looks the way it does is because when the equity team developed it, we have a system in which we capture our professional development. You have to put, so there's a naming convention to put that training in our system. If you didn't use that naming convention, we can't pull it to see if your team made it, or that you may have had one, but we are We are not on track right now, and I think there's a data cleanup to do. So the team is meeting with each of the building leaders to go through what they said they've implemented and is it in our PD system? And I think this will be covered in some of those issues. And we just had staff that were sick and we did have an action plan to support that. So that's what we built this asynchronous lessons. So as we're learning and seeing the data, we've adjusted. But it will not go away. It is part of our strategic plan. It's part of our beliefs and our values, and we'll hold all of the goals of the strategic plan and do what we would call like, depending on the strength of implementation, it'll either be an annual check or 4 times a year check. And yeah, we won't quit that. Mhm.
We don't have any action on this one.
Nope.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Then the next item on our agenda is under the Business Services and Labor Relations Report, our annual Food Service Board Report and Program Resolution. And we have Sarah, tell me how to pronounce it.
Schreifels.
Rifles. Okay, our food service manager to present.
Hi. Good evening. Well, I'm happy to be here to share some highlights and accomplishments from the food service department this year. So this year, our meal participation did decrease slightly. However, looking into the data, we did notice from about December to February during the ICE activities is generally where our lower meal counts occurred. That probably resulted in what we're seeing here. So unfortunately, but nonetheless, a pretty good year. In January, we did hold a pancake breakfast to try to cheer up our sites. It was kind of a gloomy month with everything going on in the state. So we had a bunch of volunteers come in and let the kids kind of pick toppings and make their own pancakes. It was a fun event. And we also brought back our banana split breakfast for National School Breakfast Week. So again, we had volunteers come and help us make banana splits for the kids at breakfast and distribute those out.
Get on the bus thing.
I promise they were made with yogurt, not ice cream.
That is a brilliant idea.
Yeah, the kids really enjoy these events, so we try to host them as often as possible. So, yeah. Okay, so food service worked towards 3 results for this school year. Our first result supported the social emotional learning district strategic priority. Since COVID, we've experienced challenges with getting students back down to the cafeteria to pick up their own meals. In addition, USDA regulations make it difficult for staff to pick up meals for students. So we were interested in finding ways to get students to come back down and get their own meals. So the goal by the end of the school year was to have at least 80% of students coming to the cafeteria to pick up their own meals each day. We recognize that this would also provide students with valuable opportunities for social interaction and social emotional learning. Conversations with principals and district leaders began last spring to gain their support and collaboration. PBIS training was provided to food service staff to help support students through the transition. And a formal process that meets USDA regulations was implemented for students who are unable to come to the cafeteria to pick up their meals independently. This process included classroom meal deliveries by food service staff, and training non-food service staff on USDA civil rights and point of service meal claiming to assist. So these efforts were highly successful. Currently, we have 98% of students picking up their own meals in the cafeteria compared to about 65% during the previous school year.
Your goal was
80.
so.
Yes. Yes. And to be honest, it went so well that within the first month of school, we were at about 90%. So we really gained some staff support and leadership buy-in to meet this goal. So
What do you say the kids responded to that? In terms of, I mean, obviously they did it, but like, I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Notice or their reaction to take
You
on
know,
that
they seem
responsibility?
happy to come down. You know, all of our cooks are there for a reason. They enjoy our students and we enjoy interacting with them. And so when they were coming down, we kind of missed that experience. And so I think the students actually really do enjoy it. They end up getting the food that they want, right? And things that they will actually eat. So yeah, it's been very positive all around. Yeah. Any other questions about this particular result? Okay. So our second result was, of course, the same as the district result. All full-time food service staff would complete 8 CEI activities. We were able to meet that result by providing monthly activities that included videos, articles, discussion, reflection, questions, trainings focused on belonging, diversity, communication across cultures. And we did this in collaboration with the janitorial department, so and facilities. So I can tell you that they've met this goal too. So we worked together to get that accomplished. We also did a survey at the end of this year, just asking about their experience with these activities so that we can find out if they enjoyed them, what kind of activities they might want to see next year as we continue to progress in this work. Any questions on this one? Our third result was because USDA likes to make things really complicated. So there is a new rule that called Buy American. You might have heard it through your school districts. But starting July 2025, we had to limit non-domestic food purchases to 10%. To support this work, the tracking forms were implemented and separate domestic and non-domestic order guides were created to help organize and monitor purchases. Cooks were trained on documenting the country of origin for all non-domestic food purchases using MDU required tracking forms. Our food vendor provided Buy American documentation for all domestic food items. In addition, government commodities, which are all domestically sourced, were strategically used for products we knew our vendor could not consistently source domestically. These efforts were successful as we were able to maintain our non-domestic purchases at just 7%, already exceeding the 28-29 requirement of 8%. But we will continue to work towards the 5% that's required by 2031-32. We do have more manufacturers working to qualify products under Buy American requirements, so availability continues to improve. However, these domestic products also often come with increased costs. So
I appreciate your work on making this. Yeah, go ahead, Rich.
How does that affect like? Hopefully relative.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
well, and low sodium meals, to be frank, because all spices are non-domestic. And so if you're going to replace sodium with spices to flavor food, but you can't, it gets complicated. So I don't think USDA always looks at all the rules together to make sure that they're advantageous. But
And I'm just like, was trying to rack my head, like, so what is the main non-domestic produced food that's being consumed other than spices?
lots of produce.
Produce.
Bananas,
Sourced from
pineapple,
Mexico.
mandarin oranges, juice, yeah, spices.
Which is exactly what our kids asked for, remember?
Mhm.
They got to fill out all those, you know, they wanted more.
Exotic fruit, I heard all about it.
We will never forget the request for exotic fruit. But
Yes,
again, we appreciate your work and
thank
sure that
you.
we can
rules.
follow the rules.
We were following the rules strictly this year because we do have an administrative review next year, which will look back on our data. So, yes. Okay, wellness. So this year, a wellness committee was formally established and meets on a quarterly basis to support wellness initiatives for students, staff, and families, review district practices, and ensure compliance with federal requirements. As part of this work, a subcommittee used the WellSat or Wellness School Assessment tool to complete the federally mandated triennial assessment of our wellness policy. This assessment measures how well our district implements, enforces, and achieves the goals of the wellness policy and compares it to model policies. To help inform the assessment process, surveys were distributed to collect feedback and information from stakeholders. Based on the assessment results, several areas of strength were identified. These strengths included strong compliance with federal nutrition standards for school meals, universal access to free drinking water, equitable access to meals through daily breakfast offerings and strategies designed to maximize student participation, physical activity breaks, and employee wellness initiatives. The assessment also identified several wellness areas where there are opportunities for growth. These areas included strengthening nutrition and health education curriculum, increasing physical education access, wellness committee participation and site wellness policy responsibility, smart stack compliance, and healthier alternatives for student rewards and classroom celebrations. Based off of these opportunities for growth, the Wellness Committee developed recommendations for updates to the district's wellness policy, as well as established goals and priority areas for their work next school year. These goals will help guide our continued work to support students, staff, and families' health and wellness across the district. In accordance with USDA requirements, the completed triennial assessment report will be posted on the district website and will also be shared with families as part of our back-to-school communications. We will continue to recruit and encourage staff, student, parent, and community involvement on the Wellness Committee. This year, we were awarded $24,000 to purchase a steamer for South Education Center. So that has been installed and my cook hugged it. So I can confirm that it is being used and enjoyed
Is it
greatly.
made in America?
Yes. Although the Buy American only is for food. So.
What is steamed in it? What is it?
Lots of things. So vegetables, a lot of vegetables. We do steam egg patties, egg omelets, liquid eggs, all kinds of things. Soups, we heat up soups and sauces. So we didn't have one before this, so there were a lot of pots on a 4-burner stove happening, and it wasn't super safe for staff, and yes, so it was greatly needed. So we were happy to get it. That was our 3rd year in a row winning a USDA equipment grant. So that was awesome too. We'll see if we can go to 4. Okay, we continue to make progress in updating meal standards under the USDA's final rule. This year, we implemented cereal, yogurt, and flavored milk products that meet the new added sugar requirements. Manufacturers have worked to reformulate many of these products to align with the nutrition standards, and we did not receive any negative feedback from students regarding these changes. No additional changes are required for this upcoming school year. However, we will continue to develop lower sodium and lower sugar recipes in preparation for the fall 2027 requirements, which will establish a 10% caloric limit on added sugars and further reduce sodium levels in meals. In addition, with the release of the Dietary Guidelines for Americans 2025 through 2030, USDA within the next 3 to 6 months is expected to release further recommendations for updates to school meal nutrition standards. The updated dietary guidelines include health warnings on processed foods and place a greater health emphasis on protein, dairy, and healthy fats. It is expected that the new school meal recommendations will focus on these areas. Once released, the recommendations will go through a public comment period before being implemented. And free summer meals will be available to all youth ages 18 and under from July 6th through the 24th at each of our sites during summer school operations. To help ensure families are aware of this opportunity, our communications department created flyers in multiple languages that were distributed in family communications and posted to the website. These materials included information about meal availability at our district, as well as resources to help families locate free meal programs within their own communities for the summer. And thank you for your time and your continued support. And if you have any additional questions, I can take those now.
Well done. Yes.
Yeah.
We have a resolution in front of us for the bill prices and annual food service resolution, food meal prices. That's right. Okay, so Superintendent Deb, do you wanna say anything more about that?
No.
Okay, all right.
It's your
Super.
board packet.
It's in the packet and it's kind of long, so I will ask for a motion, I think, to waive the reading and approve the resolution as presented. Is there a motion? Moved by Michael, is there a second? Second by Kim. Any further discussion? Okay, this is a resolution, so I'll ask the clerk to pull the board.
Thank you, Chair Tinsley, Susan Andreessen, aye. Michael Bergman.
Aye.
Ann Casey.
Aye.
Dan Ginestra.
Aye.
Carolyn Long.
Yes.
Brian Roth.
Aye.
Kim Ross.
Aye.
And Richard Zeck.
Yep, yes, aye. Sure.
Thank you. The ayes have it.
All right, thank you,
Okay.
Sarah.
Thank you.
All right, under board business, we do have one action item, which is our annual organizational memberships. It is recommended that the board approve the renewal of institutional memberships and dues in the Association of Educational Service Agencies, Minnesota membership, Association of Metropolitan School Districts, RightWorks, and Minnesota School Boards Association. Is there a motion to approve those memberships as presented? So I've heard Dan first and second from Shannon. Is there any further discussion on this item? Probably doing this in your home district as well. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye and the memberships are approved. Just a couple of items for me. The AMSD meeting is tomorrow morning. Yep. So if you go in person, drive safe, and otherwise I'll see you online. We have the graduation sign up. It is, we saw it on paper earlier, and it is also going to be, it was in last week's Friday update and it will be in tomorrow's update. And so make sure to, you saw the picture and you saw the reaction here. Graduation is magic. And that reaction is what happens. So you can make it to a couple of graduations. That is fantastic. They're, in particular, you look at the sheet, you can see which graduations might have students from your home district. Please remember that you're invited and welcome at at all the graduations, even if there's no students from your home district. And we do have two conflicting graduations. So especially look at your calendar and see if you can make either of the two that are on Tuesday, June 2nd, because I know that lots of people have conflicts and we have two that are happening at the same time. So it would be great if we had at least one board member at each of those. I will be at St. Louis Park graduation, watching my own child graduation. Let me see. Also going out tomorrow is going to be the superintendent evaluation form. You'll remember it's a Google form that you'll fill out, send back, and I will see anonymized results. I would love them back by Monday, is that the 8th? Yes. So that I can get everything compiled for our closed session on the 11th. And then we will have our summary as per state statute on the 25th. Then that will be our last meeting for this school year. And then we will meet again on August 27th. I wrote it down. I can't believe it's like it's so far away. So that I think is all the dates. That graduation. Are there any other announcements that I need to make before we go to once around the table? Juanine or Marcy, have I forgotten anything? All right, super. Well, with that, we'll do once around the table. Does anyone have anything to share? Go ahead, Kim.
So recently, the National Association of Elementary School Principals announced their 2026 recipients of their National Gold Star Schools Award, which these are given to schools that demonstrate exemplary leadership, innovation, and commitment to student success across, and they look for 3 pillars: established culture, empowered people, and optimal systems. There were 57 schools recognized this year. Only one school in the state of Minnesota, and that was Eagle Heights Spanish Immersion School in Eden Prairie, of which my daughter is a proud alum. So very near and dear to my heart and not surprising. It's a great school with very committed staff and it's does amazing things for students. So very proud of that.
For items, once we're on the table. St. Louis Park had the teacher of the year. Senior David Davis is a music teacher at our Spanish immersion school in St. Louis Park, and he was named the teacher of the year, which is super exciting. He's an amazing Grammy-winning person. So congrats to David. And it's funny, we have another former teacher of another teacher of the year who works in St. Louis Park, whose name is also Davis, but they're not related. So that's just a little fun tidbit. Yep. So, all right, well, I guess with nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Nobody wants to adjourn. I'll second. Any further discussion? Having so much fun. All in favor, please say aye. The chair votes aye, and we are adjourned at 7:49.